Hi, this is Sarah Maddock with the Studio Four8 partners of Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices, Snyder Co Realty. This is Todd Waller.
Hello.
And
Jeffrey Post.
Saying hi to you from our StudioCast podcast. Wanted to remind you that we do upload the videos of these podcasts, so if you would like to check out our YouTube channel and see our faces and get to know us that way, or just absorb the information in a different way, it will be there, as well as obviously check out our website.
Right.
So the topic today, Todd.
Yes.
What do we want to talk?
So we want to talk about selling your house when you've already moved.
Ooh.
I mean, that can be fraught with a lot of stress, a lot of tension. I know it can be very difficult. You own a place, you've already moved out, either because it was a corporate relocation or you decided, no, I want this other home. Now, what does that look like in selling the home that you moved from?
Right. And speaking of corporate relocation, you know, if you are being moved by your company or you just were offered a job, maybe you already know that you have relocation benefits. Maybe that's a question you ought to be asking. Do you have relocation benefits? Here at Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices, Snyder & Company, we actually have a very robust relocation department. We are all relo specialists, so we have a lot of experience in selling homes when the seller is already vacated. Now, if it is a corporate relo, there's a lot of support there, I would argue, that is an additional sort of layer of support that you get in this circumstance.
And all the in a lot of the corporate relocation groups are not all the same.
Correct.
Yeah, they're all a little bit different in how they
There are certain things
do
that
it.
might be similar,
Yep.
and then there are certain things they do entirely different.
And there's levels to it, right?
Yep.
Depending on the person that they're moving. They may have a very light package, which basically amounts to reimbursement, or they may have, you know, the full package. But either way, whether or not you have a relocation company backing you on the move, if you've already gone, there's a lot of special considerations.
Yep,
when
absolutely.
selling.
So when you put your home on the market and you've already moved out, one of the things that pops up immediately is, wait a minute, it's vacant.
Right.
What do we do when the home is vacant? So I put my home on the market, Jeffrey, and it's vacant. What are you as an agent going to do for me?
Have a huge party in it.
No,
That's a
my
good move
God.
right there.
That right there, that
wrong
right there
answer.
is every seller's worst nightmare. Right?
And that's why
Right?
I said it. I'm putting it out there because that's not going to happen.
No,
There will be no red solo cups whatsoever.
Oh dear.
No.
Oh dear.
But so you've got this asset that is unoccupied.
Right.
Let's start with that. So
Exactly.
there's a security
Yep.
component that
Exactly.
you immediately want to think about. How do I secure this property? And some of you might have alarm systems and things like that, but you're also going to visit or call your insurance agent because
Yes.
you have to expect that there's going to be some insurance differences in insuring a vacant home versus an occupied home. So out of the gate, that's the sort of thing where you're not there, nobody's there, and nothing's in it. The good thing is your personal items aren't in it if it's vacant.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
But at the same time, you have this asset that's not in somebody else's hand.
Yeah, and
Totally makes sense.
things tend to happen to vacant homes.
Yep.
You know, you hate to scare people, but some of my worst real estate nightmares, if you will, have been because it was vacant and, you know, something happened overnight, a toilet leaked or what have you, and so actually, very practically speaking, right away, especially in our climate in Michigan, we're going to recommend that the seller have the home professionally winterized. But I mean, have you had it winterized even not in the winter? Or do you just do like a light winterization with the ice maker line and the toilet lines and that sort of thing?
Yeah, the winterization really is about pipes freezing and things like that.
Yeah.
What I will do is turn the thermostat down.
Yep.
You know, you don't want your electric bill to be running up when you're not in there.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
And if we're in the spring and summertime or even in the fall and things like that, you don't need that up at 70
No.
degrees
Or
or
AC
anything.
for that matter. I mean,
Right.
it has to be comfortable for showings,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
just monitoring those things.
And having it continue to run is important.
Correct.
Because you don't want to turn it off completely and then hope that it fires up when you have a showing or it needs to be,
Right.
comfy.
So it sounds to me like there's an aspect also of checking in on the property. So as an agent,
Yes.
like if I've got a vacant listing and I know nobody's lived in it for the last month, I'm going to take an eyeball and see, okay, how many showings have we had? has anybody been through the home this past week that could have given me a heads up on something? I should still be going through that home about once a week just to check on items in that property. Because again, if somebody's not living in that property, you don't know necessarily that the water line to the toilet bust, and so it could be 24 hours or whatever until you see something along those lines. So it's important to wander through, or as an agent, put it on the rotation that, hey, every now and again, I'm going to go blowing through that property just to make sure that it's in the condition that I expect it to be in.
You know, in this day and age, there's a fair amount of homes that are smart homes.
Yep.
So for some people, they can monitor lights and things like that from their phone.
That's helpful.
But we also have recommended that people put a lamp or something on a timer.
Yep.
Yep.
You want some degree of feeling that there's some occupancy, or
some
there's
warmth
a
there.
frequency of somebody coming and going, so that because oftentimes there's also a sign out front.
Yep.
Right.
So you see the sign out front, you see the vacant home, and for some people that's an opportunity
That's
for
right.
not good.
And this is something we've done for each other a lot over the years that I really appreciate as being, part of the studio is, when we have a showing on a vacant home, if I am not going to be in the area, but Todd, I know you're going to be in Ypsilanti Township, I can say, hey, can you run over to Starling Court for me? I've got a showing at 4. Can you hit it sometime at 2 and just turn the lights on and make sure it looks good? And then, and then I'll ask the agent to turn the lights out. I mean, this is the kind of thing we can do for one another and have done.
Yeah.
Can you lock up and turn off the alarm, or, can you just check and make sure everything looks in order? Or I've had where maybe we've had 5 or 6 showings in a day, and you just want to go back and make sure that, the door's locked. I mean, so that's really important, I think, to have an agent who's willing to kind of go, well, I don't want to even call it the extra mile. I think...
but a lot of what we do is the extra mile. That's what
it should be
kinda
somewhat
makes us different.
It doesn't feel like the extra mile for us, though,
No.
because it's what we do.
Right.
But I understand, not wanting to call it the extra mile, but saying
But it
and
is the extra
recognizing it's
mile,
more
I
than
mean-
the average does.
I think some of it has to do, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but some of it has to do with the fact that we treat these properties like they're our own.
Yes.
And if it was your own,
Right.
wouldn't you do that?
That's exactly it.
I mean, that's why, wouldn't you, if there's a neighbor who knew the family very well,
Right.
wouldn't you get their number?
Yes,
Because,
I absolutely will walk right next door and say, this is my card.
right.
If there's anything, may I have your number? Last year we had a huge windstorm, and I had a listing. They had moved out, and it was already under contract. But, I had the neighbor's number, and I just said, do you mind just looking to make sure there aren't any tree branches or any, anything amiss, because it was that, that's the little things. Now, what's interesting, though, is when you sign a listing agreement, no matter whether you're there or not, you, the seller, right? The seller's there or not, they still have all the legal responsibility for all of this.
100%.
And so that's why I say we want to do this, and we do it for our clients, but ultimately, the responsibility is on the seller to make sure that's being done. And so I try to, I try to let them know when I cannot
Right.
Yeah.
make it, say, to a showing or to check on the house.
Yeah.
Just so they can have a family member or a neighbor or somebody come by.
Yeah, yeah, and and I think to some degree the neighbors appreciate that too, because maybe it was a very good friend, they moved away and all that, and there's a sign, there's a vacant house, and they live next door.
Right.
They want some warmth and bodies to be floating around there. They want to see our car pull up. It makes I feel a little more comfortable.
Right. Somebody's taking
got
care
their
of
eyes
the
on it.
place.
I'm hearing much about a collaborative nature, not just with the seller of that vacant home, but also with the community around that home, to make sure that, hey, you know what? We're taking care of this particular property for whatever reason. Maybe maybe they were great friends, but maybe it's simply, hey, this is my neighborhood. I don't want blight necessarily to pick up next door, for example.
Right.
So I like that
think that's super
collaborative nature.
important.
Yeah.
So the other aspect of things that we think about when we're selling a vacant home is staging.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Is there a wellness room in this vacant home?
Well, and let's unpack the word staging for a minute,
Yes.
because I think for a lot of people they think staging, that's where you bring in beds and you bring in chairs and things like that. I always say to my clients, first thing, everybody stages a house, because if you don't think in terms of that bookshelf's too full or I need to declutter my closet, that's staging. So everybody stages. Sometimes you need help in doing that, but it's it's declutter. It's putting the right pieces in the right place. It's getting the home set so that when somebody comes in to look at it, they don't feel like they're guests in your
Right.
home.
Yep.
They feel like it's a place where they can be home. And so it's that whole balance. And in a vacant house, of course, you either have the ability for somebody to come in and it's a blank canvas, I can see all the rooms, I know where I'm gonna put my couch and grandma's chair and all that stuff. And sometimes that can work. But I think you guys would agree that by and large, a staged house is going to sell better.
Right.
It's going to sell faster.
Sure.
It might sell for more money because you're helping to guide the person going
Right.
into it to say, this is an arrangement of this space that kind of optimizes how to live in this space.
Yeah.
You might decide, oh, that bedroom's been converted into an office. I need that bedroom. I'm going to convert it back.
Yeah.
But, and I would say especially in modern homes, because floor plans sometimes aren't as logical,
Yeah, right.
and you gotta help guide people through a little bit.
Yeah, and for the truly vacant home where no furniture exists, one of the questions that I frequently field from sellers is, well, should we have furniture brought in? Should we, again, stage with other furniture to make this thing more appealing?
Hire a professional stager, in other words.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and,
Bring
and
someone
it
in.
depends, but usually the answer is yes, I think.
Yeah, the answer
If you
can be yes.
If you know, because I would say to
Yeah.
sellers, a buyer walking into an empty room has no way to measure with
There
your
it is.
eyes. All
Yes.
you can see is from corner to corner. You can't really envision or project a love seat on this wall. And so it's just easy.
Yes.
It's sort of ironic that you put furniture in it and it feels bigger, but it does.
Yeah.
But you know, when you're talking about a seller who has already moved or
Yeah.
is about to move when they're selling, don't you sometimes have this conversation of, well, okay, you know, if you're having a corporate relo and you're moving out of state, chances are, you know, Van Lines is going to bring their semi,
Yep.
load everything in 2 days, and that's it. That's
And
the
they're
only
gone.
opportunity you have, and that's one thing. Then we
Right.
talk about about professional staging. But some of our clients, they've bought their place and they're moving next week, but maybe you don't need your table in your new place
Right.
yet.
Right.
Maybe you can leave us with a few key items so that we can get that effect without spending the money on a
Absolutely.
professional stager.
Hands down.
Yep.
And
Hands
so,
down.
you know, maybe it kind of stinks to have to move twice or load up the moving van twice,
Yeah.
but could be worth it.
And there's very few spaces. I mean, to your point, there are oftentimes just big empty rooms with walls.
Yeah.
Kitchens are probably the one place you don't have to stage.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you put some cookbooks and things on there to make it look more comfortable in there.
Right.
But appliances are where they're going to be, and that's the
That's all
one
there
room
is.
in the house.
Right.
One thing I wanted
Right.
to add is, you know, one thing that happened with COVID and the pandemic was people realized they didn't have enough space. They couldn't go to the gym to work out, so they started putting yoga mats in their bedroom or the Peloton next to the bed, where everybody wants their Peloton to be, right?
It's a great clothes hanger.
Yeah. It's
Hey,
super-
hey, I do not hang clothes on my Peloton, and it's in my bedroom, okay? And that's just where it is, Jeffrey.
Okay, because it's easier to do.
But guess what? I'm not selling my house.
I know.
Fair.
That's
You
the
know,
difference.
I would haul that
Yeah.
to the basement.
Yeah.
Where it belongs.
Well, and that's my point. If you have, I think it's smart to assign a purpose to every space because the default is storage, and if people start looking at a space that could easily fit a treadmill or a bike or a yoga mat and some weights and that sort of thing, then you've got a wellness area in part of your house.
Ding, ding, ding.
And-
Ladies and gentlemen listening at home, what you just heard Jeffrey Post say is a wellness area. And we love it when Jeffrey says that.
Not a
You
home
should check
gym.
this off on your
Keywords.
bingo card.
Keywords, operative word.
Check it off on the StudioCast bingo.
Oh, we need to create that.
Oh,
We
bingo
so
cards.
need to create bingo cards for this podcast. Okay,
All right,
note to
rein
self.
it in, guys.
Sorry.
Rein it
Okay.
in.
Sorry.
So, you know, I think with all this being said, there are still some pros to if you have to, you know, it's not a bad thing necessarily
Right.
to move before you sell,
No,
right?
not at all.
If you've got 4 dogs and 6 kids, please move.
Yeah.
Well, it removes a lot of stress.
Absolutely.
Like, if you think about that, right? You're in the process of moving a whole family from, or a whole household from this home to that home. It's much less stressful to already have your destination chosen. Then you can start moving in, even if it's slowly or all at once, and then go ahead and sell the place that you were living in. that creates its own unique stresses and whatnot. But I would argue, I think we would agree, if you have the ability to purchase before you sell, do it.
Well, and for buyers agents who are bringing their clients to the property, most of the time a vacant property will be a go and show.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean that you have to be over there necessarily to
Right.
let them in the door, depending on the property. But it also, there's a convenience for that buyer's
Right.
agent.
Yep.
That's right.
We know because we're notified, and we know when somebody's
Sure.
coming and going from that property.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's paramount, and it's what we do. But at the same time, there's an ease for that person to know they just can go in. It's not overlapping. They don't have to wait for a confirmation to come back
Yeah.
from an appointment. But
They can make it fit their and their buyer's schedule much
Yeah.
easier without one more schedule that they have to plug into.
And,
Yeah.
and not only that, the house, you know as an agent and as a seller, obviously, that anytime somebody goes to show it, it's going to look great.
Yeah.
It's going to be clean. The potty seat will be down. There's not going to be dirty dishes in the sink.
did you just say the potty
I
seat?
did
She did.
say the potty seat, yes.
You can tell she's a mom.
Yeah.
I am a mom.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a better experience probably
Yeah.
for everybody,
Yeah.
honestly. And I don't know how often this happens where you show 2, 3, 4 houses, whatever, to a buyer in the morning, and then they go, I'd really like to get back in there tonight. I want to make a decision.
Yeah.
Can we
Yep.
go back and see it after dinner?
Yeah.
Well, imagine if you were living there and you'd just gotten home from a whole day's worth of showings,
Yep.
and you're trying to relax and have dinner after work,
Ding.
and it's like,
Does that happen? Go ahead.
Is
Sorry.
the Pope Catholic?
Yeah.
Listen, it's a fantasy of mine. It's a fantasy. But anyhow, if you have already moved, showing the house is going to be absolutely, that's the best. And
Yeah.
if you have the luxury of doing that, there are
Yep.
definitely pros.
And on the staging side, don't fear it.
Yeah.
We have resources.
Yeah.
Studio Four8 has great resources.
Yes.
Very economical. They have the right things to enhance the space. It's not like,
Yeah.
we have this old wagon wheel coffee table. It'll look
Yeah.
great in your modern home.
Yeah. And
And-
we're just we want to help our sellers again just feel confident and comfortable with who is handling not just the paperwork,
Yep.
not just showing up at closing, but really having a hand in making sure the property shows great and that buyers and their agents bring great offers.
So what you're saying is they should contact Studio Four8.
They should contact Studio.
Am I creating a tag right here, like at the end?
I think aren't we about the business of recreating real estate?
That's right.
That's a tagline
There it is.
Hey,
for the StudioCast. I love saying that. Can I say that again?
please do it.
StudioCast.
Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for joining us.